Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Cradle.
And I'm Miles Gray. Welcome
Welcome
to
to Pandoradom.
Pandoradom. Yes, it's been a while. It's been a while indeed, Paul. We haven't had much time in recent days to get back onto the saddle.
Yeah, well, it's back on the saddle now. Giddy up. So, as we
Why,
were saying,
why don't we first of all explore, though, just a moment for the audience, our fellow Pandoranauts. Where are you located at this moment, Paul?
right now I'm in the Philippines.
Yes, very good. And which city? Or do you want to keep that
Uh, let's
private?
let's say Mindanao,
Let's
the
say.
Southern Island. Well,
Okay.
well, it's true though.
Yeah.
How
Uh,
about you?
I am currently located in Israel.
Israel. All right. And are you safe currently, or how safe do you feel?
I mean, relatively, I mean, it's a pretty tranquil place despite what you hear. And I mean, I would say I generally feel a lot safer here than I have in many other countries I've been to. And I've been to many, many, many dozens of countries.
All right. So, but what I mean is in terms of things coming down from the sky, you know what I mean?
Such as the sky itself. Well, yeah, I mean, currently we're not experiencing any of that right this second, but that could change instantaneously. So
Right.
we
Okay.
continually follow the news to make sure that there are no new alerts because truly within a few moments, the situation can change entirely and abruptly and you find yourself hearing a siren and running to the bomb shelter.
Right. So that could be any time.
Yes.
Last night here, so I hear there was an earthquake again. So school was canceled for my daughter, and apparently everybody's in this area school. I don't know, maybe in a large, wide area, school was canceled.
And so this
So
earthquake,
yeah, I'm sure my daughter's school is perfectly safe for all the kids, but I think it's like a kind of a department-wide thing to keep it all on schedule. So I'm sure there's nothing wrong with the buildings at my daughter's school, but some multi-story buildings I'm sure it might be wise to cancel school after an earthquake in that case. So this is not too long after, I forget when, it must have been maybe a month ago. Yeah, about a month ago. Just over a month ago, I think there was the huge earthquake. I mean, I felt it, and I ran outside. I was lying on the bed actually doing something on my computer, and I felt the bed shaking, and I thought it was kind of cool. Like I didn't want to do anything because I like to feel the earthquake.
like one of those coin
So
operated beds from back in the 80s, remember those?
oh, I never used one, but I've heard of people being too lazy to do certain things, so they use the vibrating bed. But
How
uh
much could that actually help, though?
I don't know. I've heard of people all the way through, just
Oh my God.
lazy people. So, but
It's
anyway,
amazing how much
uh,
you were able to say by saying so little.
so I ran outside. So I ran outside begrudgingly, and I tried to go as fast as I could because I wanted to feel the earthquake. And I knew that every second I
Wow.
spent running, I couldn't really feel the earthquake. But I rushed outside, and I felt it. And I was
Incredible.
thinking for a minute, well, this isn't fair because I'm just enjoying this, feeling the ground rocking like a boat. And I'm actually taking some time to get my sea legs here. I'm getting used to this. And I'm thinking, right at this time, there could be buildings falling down. There could be people
Right.
unaliving. There could be all kinds of things happening. And here I am just watching the trees, feeling the ground, enjoying this. And
Of course. My
so,
gosh.
but
Well, at
but
least
it is fun. Now,
it
see, you have to admit, if no damage occurred or lives lost, earthquakes would be fun.
well, that it sounds like well, so explain if you would, Paul. So when you're actually in an earthquake, now you say that it's kind of topsy-turvy, you can feel the earth shaking beneath you. What is that actually like? Does it feel like the earth is stationary and that it's moving
Okay.
side to side, or that it's literally shaking like the bed was shaking underneath
Okay.
you
I think in,
in a horizontal manner?
I think in the very beginning,
I'm
there's
sorry, vertical
something like,
manner.
yeah, I think in the very beginning, there's some kind of wave that comes up and goes up and down first. I think I did actually, I've heard of that phenomenon on some kind of documentary, but I think I actually felt it because at first the bed just went boom, 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 up and down a little bit. And then it starts swaying back and forth. So
Wow.
basically, it would be just like you were on a boat, except there's no tilt. There's no ground tilt. It just goes back and forth. But the vibrations, at least the ones here that we've had recently, the vibrations are low frequency. I'd say maybe one per second, I guess. One, yeah. It just goes, it goes kind of like that. I mean, you can kind of, you just rock to it like a baby. So,
Wow. That's
so that's, I don't know what, ground shaking seems to imply that it's violently back and forth quickly, but it wasn't like that here. It was just like you're on a big boat in a storm, probably something like that.
so you guys got a luxury
I
one.
actually have I actually have been on a boat in a storm, a ferry, and I did feel it rocking and swaying
Yeah, for sure.
and the angle tilting the whole way. I was sleeping at that time. I think I was going from Korea to China. Yeah, it was that boat from Korea to China.
Yeah, I've been on that
So,
too. I've been on that one as well.
oh, yeah. Nice. So, if we can move on, earlier we were saying,
Incredible, really.
with
I
regards
just want
to
I
China,
want wait, can I interject one thing, Paul? I wanted to say that I think it's quite
yeah.
notable how you mentioned, among other things, that you ran outside because you wanted to feel the earthquake. That was a remarkable phrase.
Well, I wasn't worried about like roof collapse or anything here because I'm pretty sure this place can take it. But or if it couldn't, it would have collapsed already. But
I mean,
um
that's a pretty robust roof you have there. I mean, ceiling, I mean, you have
yeah,
there. It's very
yeah, but
ornate.
right, right. I'm sure that it looks a lot more ornate and um exquisite on the camera. But when you're here, people
Usually
don't really
people
notice it. But
usually people say the opposite, that things look much better in person.
yeah, yeah. But part of it is because I tilt the camera up and you can't see much else. But anyway,
I see what you mean.
yeah,
Okay.
I ran outside because well, technically I had to get out. Like I couldn't justify staying inside to feel the earthquake. So I had to get out. But during the process of running out, I wanted that to be fast so I could go out and feel the ground shaking. And there were videos released later, I think nearer the epicenter, that literally showed kids sitting down on the grounds outside for some kind of school function. Oh, it was the first day of their school, is what it was.
Oh,
I
wow.
remember because my daughter's starting first grade. Okay, she started first grade. They had the flag raising ceremony and like some kind of opening ceremony, and then school was canceled for 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow, that's
So
amazing.
my daughter started first grade, and then
And that's the
so
opening sequence. Incredible. Well, that's quite a way to
yeah.
start school.
Yeah, but on that video, there were kids sitting on the ground. You could see them. It looked like they were just having fun, like rocking to a song or something. But no, they were really being swayed. Like
Inc
and on like they didn't mean to do that. They were really rocking.
That's remarkable.
So
Truly, truly
yeah, Yeah.
amazing to envision. Now, let me say also that when you say that about beginning school to rather rocking rituals, it reminded me of what we've been through here in very recent memory, that because of the ongoing high violence attack from missiles and drones with massive explosions, what we frequently were doing, and because I work as a teacher, I can attest to this personally, was education online. So this, of course, is something that may be familiar to people around the world who are students and teachers alike because of what happened during COVID. We all understand that many of us, if we had computers, if we had the ability to go online, then we probably were continuing our education on the net through Zoom or um, some other platform. And many of
Yeah.
us also worked as well in other jobs if we had the ability to do so during COVID on the computer. Now, not only did we experience that here, but then within the last few years where we've had numerous direct attacks from
Hmm.
Iran, we've now had
Yeah.
situations where we are um, essentially not in school for multiple weeks at a time, in which case it's decided by the Ministry of Education that classes will therefore continue online, which is a whole can of worms unto itself, how that actually works out. But we were constantly online uh, throughout the war, even while there were literal missiles falling, we were having classes. And
Hmm.
while teaching in the actual midst of class, you'd have to say, everybody run to shelter now, and we'll resume with
Yeah.
vocabulary after the break. And
God.
so, and so we
Well, that
would
shows
and
dedication
so,
there.
so everybody would run off the camera down to their respective bomb shelters. You wait like 15 minutes, and then by the time you get back, there's like maybe 2 minutes of class left, but you still have to complete it because that's the official mandated class time. So you sit down, you say, "Everybody, welcome back. I hope everybody's safe. Is everyone all right? Everybody's okay." You take head count.
Uh-huh.
And you say, okay, so let's
Oh
continue with
God.
the time we have. What vocabulary words did we
Oh.
learn this today? And then all of a sudden, and then there's another one, and it's like everybody, all right, go back to the cell. And by that time, you don't even come back to the class because it's going to be over by the time you get back. So this was a recurring
Man.
scenario that happened throughout the online class taking during these legs of the war where we were actually online, and you never knew when it was going to happen. I mean, honestly, there were salvos coming in sometimes in very quick succession, something like five, six, seven in quick succession. So, you have one salvo hits,
Hmm.
then you wait like another few minutes, you come back to the computer, you hear the sirens again, and then so this sometimes happened in completely quick succession, and there was often no point in even leaving the bomb shelter. So this happened for essentially 40 days straight.
Mm.
And people are they don't want to hear this, of course, when you're talking about Israel. They many people feel that Israel quote deserves unquote what it gets because of essentially based on the propagandic narratives that they respond to with regard to Israel. Israel is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination internally. However, externally, as a general democratic state, it's a fairly fair place on the, in most ways that matter. And
Well,
again, and it's
it would be
and it
interesting to visit, I guess, if I could sometime.
well, it's definitely
You
you're definitely welcome to. I mean, I think that the
have very many non-Jews who visit, or is it mostly a Jewish thing?
No, no, there are a huge number of tourists that are non-Jews. I mean, you have a lot of Christians, including Filipinos, that come here on pilgrimage.
Uh,
And same thing, you also have some Muslim um, pilgrims that come here as well. But aside from that, we have citizens that are Christians and Muslims too. And despite what people like Tucker Carlson say, they are not being in any way persecuted by
oh yeah, yeah. Now,
by the.
so Jerusalem is there, right? I sound like a complete idiot, but
No, it's
there is
fine.
Jerusalem.
Yeah,
There is Jerusalem. Okay.
Jerusalem is located in Israel, yes. It's the capital.
Right. Okay. So there, of course, there are. Yeah. So that's why it's a Christian destination too, of course.
Yeah,
And there's even a Jerusalem syndrome listed
that's
as a
right.
mental health
That's right.
uh, category.
I've personally witnessed this a number of times, Paul. You have to know that
Mm.
I'm in Jerusalem, I would say 2 or 3 times a week on at well no. If you count going to and from, I'm in Jerusalem about between 4 and 6 times a week.
Okay. And yeah,
Uh
and so you have witnessed Jerusalem syndrome. Somebody comes into the town
I
on some
I
kind of
yeah.
like a Christian pilgrimage or something, and then so they're in this religious mindset, and they're probably thinking of biblical times and Jesus and everything. And here they see a McDonald's and modern civilization that just looks like it's total desecration of the land, and they go crazy. Some of them have dressed up. They've turned the hotel curtain into a robe, and they go out and they preach to everybody to stop
I
what
I've
they're.
I know I've seen it
So
before. It's a fascinating it's a fascinating syndrome. I mean, essentially, I used to live in Jerusalem when I was in yeshiva or a Jewish school of study. And you're somewhat insulated from that. I mean, if you're in the yeshiva or this Jewish study school, you're not really. I mean, honestly, Jerusalem is a scenario. It's a place where you can be there and be in your own world, and it's easy to sort of cloister yourself into these ever deeper inner rooms of the soul. However, it's also
mm,
possible that if you open yourself up and you go out for a midnight stroll and you're under the moon, walking from boulevard to boulevard, you will see the very Jerusalem syndrome suffering individuals that you describe. Now, they're not necessarily
hmm.
out in hordes, but they do exist from time to time. And
Okay, but it's supposed to be a temporary syndrome. That's why they call it a syndrome. So they're not talking years at a time. But I'm sure you do see guys who are weirdos who get stuck there.
no, hold on. A syndrome can last for years. There's nothing
Oh,
temporary
well,
about a syndrome
yeah, I guess,
necessarily.
yeah, true, true, true.
But
But in the case of Jerusalem syndrome, though, it usually goes away. Like by its nature,
right,
it's temporary.
it is temporary. The other issue is that it tends to occur in tourists and they're leaving anyway at a certain point. So,
Oh, there. Well, that's what I'm saying though. There are some crazies still there, right? Do you see like crazy religious whack jobs
I mean,
sometimes?
I would hesitate to call them that exactly because I mean
Yeah, I'm right.
on the one hand, I can't say that I necessarily agree with their declared theology, but on the other hand, I do have a certain general respect, as most Israelis do,
Yeah,
for a diversity of opinion, we'll say, because as they often
yeah.
say, put 2 Jews in a room, you get 3 opinions. Now that extends in Jewish culture generally even to Gentiles, but it's
See,
specifically. But hold on. But specifically Gentiles that you call righteous Gentiles, Geret Tzedek, because ultimately, obviously, you can't entertain the opinions of your declared enemies who want you unalive. However, people who are righteous Gentiles and want to live in harmony with you, it is worth hearing their side of the story and their opinion when they don't want you unalive and that they're willing to harmonize as best they can. So, in that mode, may it be your pleasure to be a mad sort of self-declared prophet within our midst in New Jerusalem. I mean, the thing is that for us as Jews, for whom Israel is the authentic biblical, ancestral, and indigenous homeland, which Zionism describes, it has a very distinct character from what you see when you see someone suffering from Jerusalem syndrome. Because essentially, if this person, even if they're quote ill unquote, go if they're going out to then preach essentially another religion to local Jews for whom this is their holy land, and not only is it their holy land, it is the land that is original to them in the sense of the oldest extant people with any claim to the land are the Jews. And so therefore, even if you don't have any sort of belief in land can be owned or land can be indigenously um, possessed in some way or other, even if you don't believe in such things, you can say anthropologically and archaeologically that factually Jews are the oldest extant people with some sort of demonstrable connection to this area. Now, there were others that were older, but they are no longer extant. Um,
Right.
so,
I see
so,
what you mean.
so you have
Well,
that,
see, I come from a background
so,
where,
so what I'm saying is you have to be careful. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Paul, because we have scenarios where you'll get onto the bus in Jerusalem, and I've seen this before. You have a bunch of Jews, local Jews, local Muslims, local Christians, Armenian Christians as well. You have also Indian workers, workers from different parts of the world, Filipino workers. And a very wide mix. And Chinese workers you have as well. Anyway, the point is that you're all on the same bus at the same moment. You'll see Jews who are ultra Orthodox. You'll see Jews who are completely secular. You'll see Jews who are somewhere in the middle, who are what are called national religious, sort of a type of modern Orthodox. Like I said, you have Muslims,
Mhm.
and they're all on the same bus at the same time. I mean, it's completely different than what people describe
That's a good point.
because they claim apartheid. How is that apartheid? That's but again, but it's
See,
even
that's a
be
good point. So there are varying levels of religiosity.
but
I guess
it's not
the
just
background I'm
but it's
coming
not
from
it's
is
not
I
but
just
it's
like
not only
it.
that we also have Druze serving in the military at high levels. Plus we have doctors, pharmacists, policemen, teachers, postal
Yeah,
workers
yeah.
Who are Muslim cultural Arabs. And if this is an apartheid state, how is that possible? So these
Uh-huh.
many of these canards that are lodged against us are indefensible. If you actually come to visit,
Mhm.
you see with your own eyes. So the whole point of this is that on the one hand, if you come, you can see with your own eyes that so much of these deceptions are lies, and yet it's still completely possible for somebody to come here, still see how things are in reality, and still fall victim to something like Jerusalem syndrome. Now, on the one hand, you say like they see a McDonald's and they see something modern and they can't make it gel because it's like how is it possible that this is the Holy Land? And yet that it's able to happen at all in the first place is completely shocking. Uh, but what I'm saying is you're on the
Oh.
bus and people will start they seem a bit unhinged and they start to proselytize, trying to
Mhm.
spontaneously convert the local Jews on the bus. And I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but it's actually highly insulting when it happens.
Yeah, so you're reminding me kind of so like a very international kind of city. I got that feeling from sounds like Hong Kong, kind of a Hong Kong feeling.
Oh, I remember Hong Kong. What a city
Uh,
that is. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, so it sounds like you're basically having all kinds of different people coming in and out, like mixed in.
I mean, it's
And
in a way it's true, but it's very distinct. I mean, Hong Kong is composed. The way that people come in and out of Hong Kong or they settle there. It's completely distinct. I mean, it's truly a highly diverse city.
yeah,
Jerusalem, it is also diverse in its own way, but it's the fault lines that exist culturally. It's much more distinct because I mean, majoritarily it's Jewish. On the other hand,
yeah. But
you do have a plethora of minority
so
workers who, but I mean, I talk to them all the time. I speak Mandarin with the Chinese workers that I meet on the street. I speak English with my small smattering of Cebuano and Tagalog with, you know, local Filipinos. I speak my limited um, Marathi and Hindi and English with the Indian workers and visitors. You know, I try to communicate because for me it's interesting and fun. I mean, it's as a linguist, but
so I
but it's not quite
yeah,
the same at all as Hong Kong. We'd have to have a whole other episode about the differences, but
yeah.
it's yeah.
But I don't really like cities like that anymore. I actually just don't like cities in general.
Yeah, I can understand
Since
that.
probably after the age of about 35 or so, they or yeah, around there, they probably just lost all their appeal. I mean, I used to like the excitement or like the feeling like of energy, like something was always happening and there were always different people around or something, but I don't know. But anyway, I might have been kind of insensitive to imply that anybody who's highly religious is a whack job. Not necessarily, but you have to
No,
admit that a lot of very high religiosity is often adjacent to, if not overlapping, being a whack job in some way. But I
yeah,
don't mean to say everybody. Yeah, I can respect somebody being highly religious and but you have to give it an exception in that it's their religion that they're practicing. Now, if it were something else, like some kind of belief, that's often joked about when they by atheists and people criticizing religions. Like, if it were anything else, you'd be in a mental hospital believing things like that, things that
that's
kind of parallel religious storylines. Like, if you think about it, so you're eating the body and drinking the blood of a dead guy who's his own father and impregnated his mother.
and Jewish, by the
So
way,
yeah,
A Jewish Israeli.
uh-huh,
It's quite
yeah,
true. I mean,
yeah.
now the
Oh,
thing.
oh, oh. So that's the critique that would make a Christian look crazy to a Jew
Well, you have to
about the
understand
Jesus thing.
from a certain point of view, in a joking way, and yet it
Yeah,
has a lot of
yeah,
truth to it. To a local Jew here, when you have somebody who, for
yeah,
example, is anti-Semitic but also has strong Christian values and they're visiting, it's very bizarre because on the one hand, it's like, okay, let me get this straight. You don't like Jewish people, and yet you worship a dead Jewish dude. Explain that one
yeah.
to
See,
me.
but they themselves will have some kind of exception to that in their religion. Like, well, he wasn't really a Jew because he was Christ,
But
But
and yet the question, of course, in this case is you can get away with believing that per faith, which of course is the, you know, the main uh, sort of the way that it works within many strands of Christianity. However, from a sort of a historical point of view, you can simply say that, you know, there's no amount of believed transcendence that takes away from your merely human anthropological origin. So it's like, okay, we can say maybe there was some sort of transcendence, but at the end of the day, most scientists of a clear mind will say, well, maybe, but I can't be sure of that. And so all I can say is if he existed, he most certainly was a Homo sapien of some kind. Now, but hold on, let
Well,
me.
that's why
I,
religion.
I just need to say one other thing because you were saying before about people who are uh, being hyper, like really religious, being whack jobs. Now, now the thing is, I don't completely disagree, having been extremely religious myself at one time. I still am in some ways, but not,
But I don't think
not.
that's a whack job in itself. I don't think that makes you a whack job, though.
No, it doesn't. But what I wanted to say though, specifically with regard to Jerusalem and Israel, is that you have cases where people who are basically highly religious, and then it is at the expense of other people. Now, this is one of the problems that we're facing. So on the one hand, is a person a whack job in their observance if their religion is essentially bothering or taking up the space of another person? Now, I'm not specifically I mean, I know that people will hear this and they're going to think, "Oh yeah, that's what the Jews, that's what the Israelis are doing." I'm not actually talking about that. I'm talking about, for example, the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount, or Har Bayit, it is the holiest land, speaking of what we consider to be holy or not, transcendent, that is the holiest spot in Judaism. However, on this very spot where it's believed the first temple was built, but is no longer standing, there is a mosque, a masjid, or a misgad, which is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And so
Hmm.
this is a Muslim holy site that was built much, 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 much later on top of the ruins of the first temple of Judaism. Now, there was a quote status quo, unquote, for the longest time that has and continues technically to disallow Jews from congregating and praying in large numbers at this site because it's supposed to be a Muslim holy site. Now,
Oh,
now, the problem is we live in a state that is a democracy, it has Jewish characteristics where you do have freedom of religion. However, how is it possibly the case that Jews in that case are not allowed to go to their holiest site? Now, number one,
yeah.
there's a Jewish consideration, and that is that Jews uh within Judaism are not supposed to go to extremely holy sites, including the Temple Mount, if they are not um, ritually purified, which is a complicated story as to what that means. But the point is that you can't just go there. You have to be purified before going. Now, aside from that, there is a discomfort religiously for Gentiles about Jews being present there. However, how can that be the case when this is the holiest site of Judaism? And not only that, but it was the holiest site of Judaism far before any other religion had claim to it, or any extant religion anyway. Because, of course,
Yeah.
Christianity and Islam are
Oh,
extremely, extremely new compared to Judaism. Not only that, they are both heavily derived from Judaism. So you have this
yeah.
element. Now, hold on.
God.
One other thing I have to say, Paul, is that this so you have the so-called status quo. Now, in recent times, there have been what are claimed to be extremist Jewish um uh Jewish we'll say uh elements, I suppose, that believe that despite all of this, they still have a God-given right and even a state licensed right on some level to go up to the Temple Mount and pray there. And they have been doing it. And this has been causing problems because many of the local Muslims believe that this is the precursor to a complete takeover of the mosque. And now that is not likely the case. However, the problem is that when you have that story, it spreads, around the Muslim world, and it starts to cause uh, uproar, where they say, "Oh, it's an imminent
Yeah.
Jewish takeover of of what they call Haram al-Sharif, which is the Temple Mount, or Har HaBayit." And they say it's imminent, and so then it actually causes attacks to occur. So we're in this sort of endless cycle, but at the end of the day, why can't we say, okay, this is clearly the holiest site for Judaism. Judaism has the oldest claim to that area. I mean, it is true you already have a Muslim holy site built on top of it at a much later date. Okay, we're not going to tell you to leave. We're not going to tell you to deconstruct it. Why don't we both pray there on that site? You pray in the misgad, which is the mosque, and we will pray in a part that is not the mosque on the same actual Temple Mount. What is the problem with that? So this is Jerusalem in a nutshell. This is Israel in a nutshell, and it is not at all what you are told, what you see in the news, what the UN says, what Amnesty International says, what B'Tselem says, what Doctors Without Borders say, what the Democratic Party says, what the Republican Party says. All of these different actors, including nut jobs like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, they are spreading horrifically anti-Semitic lies that have to be nipped in the bud. And so I enlist your help, Paul, and though in the help of our viewers, I'm not asking you to be pro. All I'm saying is be sensible.
Well, it it sounds like, why can't we just be tolerant of each other? Why do we have to have exclusive zones where one religion says the other better not come anywhere near? And look, as far as the ancient claims and everything, I mean, I understand that has some significance in the religion, but
But but
I mean, to the extent
anthropolog but
there a
anthropolog
legal process,
but
I mean,
anthropo
you can't
anthropo
currently have a legal process to get that back.
well
Because that's let sleeping dogs lie. That's
there are two separate
bygone time.
dimensions, because it's important within the religion itself, but it's also important anthropologically. It's not just within the
Yeah,
religion. It's
but
also
it's kind of like the Incas wanting their silver back or something in some way. It's like
not
times
no, but
things just become historical artifacts.
not no, I wouldn't say that's true, and I'll tell. I mean, in the way that you're describing it, the reason is because the Inca Empire fell, and there was no trace of it left. The thing is that Jews have been continuously living in their ancestral
Yeah.
homeland for
So
the
so there is a difference. They're not exactly the same, right?
what?
But still, I mean, some claim could be made that their silver was stolen and that Spain has to give it back. I mean,
Oh,
what I'm
yeah,
trying to say
okay.
is, like, at some point, you know, this is how it is now. You can still practice your religion, and so can they. Like, because trying to change that would
But
necessarily
but but
result
but
in
there no but
fighting and
no
more
but
conflict.
but Paul, there's something that you're missing here, okay? And this is that
Mhm.
uh the Inca, or I should say the remnants of the Inca today, do not base an entire way of life, religion, ethnicity around the Incan identity. Now, there are some individuals who trace their indigenous roots to an Incan legacy, but
Mhm.
it's not like a full-on religion at least at this point.
I would
Judaism,
say that's
Ju
not necessary. I would say that's not necessary because
No, no, but I'm, but
religion
I'm,
is
but I'm,
just
but
it's
I,
a
but I'm
freedom that
telling,
you
but
have.
no, but hold on. Judaism is not just a religion, though. Ugh, ugh, damn it, man.